This was the sharpest market shift we've seen all year. Prices dropped, inventory spiked, and yet homes are suddenly selling faster. You've been waiting for a clear sign that the Mount Dora market is changing. This is it. So let's break down what really happened in October of 2025. Of course, we're using real data pulled from within 1 mile of Mount Dora, Tavares, and Eustis. So today I want to start with inventory because that is where we saw the biggest change. So after sitting at a very steady 5 months in inventory from March through September of this year, we jumped up to 8 months in October. That is the highest level that we've seen since the beginning of the year, and a clear signal that more homes are hitting the market without an influx of buyers. So this shift doesn't mean that the market is crashing. It just means supply is outpacing demand right now, which I've been saying this since the beginning of the year. This opens up a lot more negotiating room for buyers. Next, let's talk about pricing because this is where we saw the biggest drop. The median sales price in October came in at $369,250, which is the lowest it's been since January when prices were about $360 on average. From March through September, prices hovered at around $390 to $400, and just last month in September, we were at about $399. So to drop nearly $30,000 in a single month, that is certainly not nothing. It doesn't mean that every home dropped in value, but it's a sign that sellers are finally adjusting their prices. Remember how I said last month that if buyer demand and seller prices were at an impasse, someone would have to give? I think that's what we're finally seeing here. We're seeing those price reductions, more homes closing under list price, and even more incentives being offered, especially for homes that aren't fully move-in ready. Again, this is not a crash or a long-term decline, but it's a clear shift in the stability that we saw over the summer. It is more of a pricing reset, especially for my sellers who need to move before the holidays and don't want to sit on the market through November and December. Here's the part that surprised me this month though. Days on market dropped again. Over the summer, homes were sitting. So in July, we were looking at a median of about 74 days. In August, that was slow at about 69, but things started to move a little quicker in September at 57 days. Now in October, we're all the way to 51. That's the fastest pace we've been seeing since the beginning of the year. So even though prices dropped and inventory increased, buyers are still writing offers, just not on everything. What this tells me is that when a home is priced right and shows well, it still moves quickly. Buyers are paying attention, they've got more to choose from, and they're being selective. So it's not a hot market, but it's still an active one. You just have to play it smart. So how do we make sense of all of this? More homes usually means homes take longer to sell, but that's not what we're seeing right now. What this likely means is that while more homes are available, only the ones that are priced right and marketed well are moving quickly. The rest are sitting, which could explain the rising inventory despite faster median sales. So we have a little bit of a split market, and that's backed up by what I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis with my buyers. Buyers are still out there, especially serious buyers, but they're being selective and they're timing their offers strategically. Now, one thing that's fueling buyer urgency is the recent rate cut by the Fed. Mortgage rates haven't dropped. I checked today, we're at about 6.2%, but the rate cut has really shifted in buyer psychology. So there's this new renewed sense that lowered rates might be right around the corner in 2026, and buyers really want to get ahead of that curve before we do actually see prices go back up, or before we start to see those competitive offer situations again. So that expectation is already pulling some buyers back into the market after sitting on the sidelines this year. The question I always want to answer is now the time to buy or sell? So if you're a buyer, this is one of the most favorable months we've seen all year heading into November. Inventory is up, prices are heading down, and mortgage rate optimism is starting to creep back in. You have more home to choose from, and you have a little bit more wiggle room in terms of negotiation, but you're going to need to act quickly because the days on market data shows that those homes are not sitting on the market as long as they were this summer. If you're a seller, my message isn't going to change much for you. Market still requires a lot of strategy on your end. So the buyers are still there, but only for homes that are presented well and that are priced realistically. Overpricing in this kind of market can hurt you more than it can help you, especially with our climbing inventory. So if you want to sell before the holidays or early in 2026, now is the time to price smart, to prep thoroughly, and work with an agent who understands how to position your home in a market that is shifting every few weeks. nice. I'll be watching these trends closely as we finish out the year, and I'll be back next month with a full Q4 wrap up and a year-end analysis. But be sure to browse my channel for more Mount Dora fun and market and neighborhood info, all that good jazz. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.